Deep Dive podcast on divine narratives, a collection of inspiring biblical stories, episode 43, The Woman at the Well, Encountering Grace and Truth.
It is such a fascinating narrative to dig into today.
It really is. So, welcome to today's Deep Dive. We're exploring a profound narrative from John chapter 4 today. And our mission is really to unpack this extraordinary encounter that it breaks every single societal rule of its time.
Oh, completely shatters them.
Right, and it offers these really deep lessons on grace and truth and transformation. But to start off, I want you, the listener, to just picture this for a second.
Okay, set the scene.
So imagine you are sitting completely alone. You are just trying to get through the daily grind. You're exhausted, minding your own business. And then this stranger approaches you.
And not just a random stranger,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. This is a stranger who belongs to a group of people who historically just absolutely despise your group. Like, the tension is incredibly heavy.
Right, it's an ancient hatred.
Yeah, but instead of hurling an insult or, just ignoring you completely, this stranger actually asks you for a favor. And as you talk, you realize they somehow know your deepest, most hidden secrets.
Which is terrifying.
Right. But instead of judging you, they offer you ultimate spiritual fulfillment. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today.
It really is one of the most stunning interactions in the ancient texts. Because to really grasp the magnitude of this, we have to look at the geography first.
Yeah, the famous Samaria bypass. I love this concept.
It's so telling, isn't it? So Jesus is traveling from Judea in the south up to Galilee in the north. And if you look at a map, Samaria is smack in the middle.
Right. It's the most direct route.
Exactly. But Jewish travelers of that era would routinely take this massive, grueling detour. Like, they would go all the way through the Jordan Valley just to avoid setting foot in Samaria.
Which is it's like taking a 3-hour detour on your road trip just to avoid driving through a rival sports team's city, but way more intense.
Ugh, way more intense. It wasn't a petty rivalry. This was a millennium-old blood feud.
Wait, a millennium, 1,000 years?
Yeah, you really have to rewind to the Assyrian conquest in 722 BC.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the northern kingdom of Israel falls, the Assyrians deport the Israelites, and they resettle the land with foreigners. And over the centuries, the remaining Israelites intermarried with those groups.
Okay, so to the Jews returning from their own exile later on, they basically viewed the Samaritans as compromised.
Exactly. They saw them as a mixed-race population that had polluted the religion. The hostility was institutional. The Samaritans even built their own rival temple on Mount Gerizim.
Right, which the Jews later destroyed, right?
Yeah, violently destroyed it in 128 BC. So the grudges are incredibly toxic, yet Jesus purposefully chooses to he just walks right through it.
He takes the direct route.
He walks straight into the tension, and he arrives tired, and he sits down by Jacob's well. And the text gives us this very specific detail. It's around noon.
Which is a huge red flag.
A massive red flag.
Because, the sun is at its absolute peak. The Middle Eastern heat at noon is punishing, and drawing water isn't like turning on a faucet.
No, you're hauling heavy clay jars.
Yeah.
They probably weigh 20 to 30 pounds.
Yeah, pulling it by a rope hand over hand. It's grueling work. So historically, women went to the well in groups, right? Like early in the morning or late in the evening.
Exactly. It was the social hub. To be there at high noon, completely alone, means she is actively avoiding the other women in her town.
She's socially quarantined.
Right. She is choosing the physical punishment of the midday heat over the psychological punishment of being judged by her neighbors.
Oh, man, that is so heavy. She just wants to get her chores done in peace. But then she walks up, and there is a Jewish man sitting there.
There's the two of them.
Right. And he looks at her and says, give me a drink. And she is just completely taken aback. She literally says, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman?
Which is totally fair. Because in that one request, an entire matrix of cultural rules just collapses.
Okay, break that down for us, because it's not just the ethnic barrier, right?
No, it's 3 distinct barriers.
Okay.
First, yes, the ethnic barrier between Jew and Samaritan.
Right.
But second, the gender barrier.
Right, the patriarchal culture.
Exactly. A male rabbi speaking directly to an unrelated woman in public was a huge taboo. Some rabbis wouldn't even speak to their own wives in the marketplace.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And then third, you have ritual purity. Strict Jewish law considered Samaritan vessels perpetually unclean. So by asking to drink from her jar, he is willingly taking on her cultural contamination.
That is it's amazing because, we talk about breaking barriers a lot today. It's a huge cultural talking point.
Oh, absolutely.
But isn't it wild how casual Jesus is about it here? Like, he doesn't give a grand speech about equality first. He just humbly asks for a drink of water.
Right, he doesn't lecture her.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, is the most powerful way to break a barrier simply asking someone for help?
I think so. He puts himself in a position of vulnerability. He's the thirsty traveler, and she holds the resources. He actually elevates her dignity by needing her.
And that totally shifts the power dynamic.
Completely.
Yeah.
And because he crossed that initial boundary, it opens the door for him to offer her something much, much greater.
Right, the living water.
Yes. He tells her if she knew who was asking, she would ask him for living water.
Now, living water, that had a specific literal meaning back then, didn't it?
It did. On a literal level, it just meant flowing water, like a bubbling spring, as opposed to stagnant cistern water.
Which makes sense why she gets confused. She's standing at a deep well and he's talking about a flowing spring, but he obviously means it metaphorically.
Right. He's symbolizing spiritual fulfillment, divine grace, eternal life, the kind of fulfillment that permanently quenches your soul.
But she takes him completely literally. She says, Sir, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep.
She's totally missing the metaphor.
It is so relatable, though. I mean, it's like someone offering you a lifetime supply of inner peace, and your first thought is, great, does this mean I can finally stop doing my laundry?
That is exactly what it's like.
We get so stuck on our immediate physical burdens because she literally says, give me this water so I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here.
She just wants relief from the daily grind. And not just the labor, but the shame of the midday well. She's looking for a worldly, temporary solution to a really deep spiritual exhaustion.
We do that all the time, don't we? Constantly returning to the well of, I don't know, our careers or bad habits, trying to satisfy a deeper emotional need.
We do.
Mm.
But to actually receive the spiritual fulfillment Jesus is offering, the conversation has to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, it takes a really sharp turn here.
It does. Grace requires facing the truth. So Jesus abruptly tells her, go call your husband and come back.
Which, I have to ask, from a psychological angle, why does he do that? He obviously knows the answer already. Is he testing her honesty, or is he gently forcing her to confront her reality?
I think it's the latter. You cannot be spiritually renewed if you're hiding behind a facade. So she gives this very careful, guarded answer. She says, I have no husband.
Which is technically true, but leaves out a lot.
Right. And Jesus validates her honesty, but then he lays it all out. He says, you're right. You have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband.
Now, wait, stop right here, because when modern readers hear 5 husbands, we immediately picture, like, a serial divorcee living this wild, scandalous life.
Like an ancient Elizabeth Taylor or something.
Exactly, but that is totally misreading the historical context, isn't it?
It is a massive misreading. In the patriarchal society of the first century, a woman rarely had the legal right to initiate a divorce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. A woman who had been married 5 times was almost certainly a victim of devastating circumstances.
So she's not a serial rule breaker.
Unlikely. Under ancient levirate marriage laws, if a husband died, the widow might be passed to his brother to produce an heir. Or if she was infertile, her husband could just summarily divorce her, leaving her destitute.
Which was basically a death sentence back then.
It was pure survival mode. By the time she's had 5 husbands and is living with a man who won't even give her a legal marriage contract, she is deeply traumatized. She's collateral damage of a brutal system.
That completely reframes the entire story for me. Jesus isn't calling out a moral failure. He's naming her trauma.
Exactly. He sees the absolute totality of her pain and rejection, and his knowledge of her past doesn't deter him at all. It's the foundation for their connection.
Grace isn't about hiding your past. It's about being fully known and still fully accepted. But man, the moment her painful reality is exposed, she panics.
Oh, her defense mechanisms kick right in.
It's so funny in a tragic way. She realizes he's a prophet and immediately pivots the conversation to the biggest theological debate of the time.
Right, church geography.
Yeah. She basically says, okay, you know my secrets. Let's talk about where we should worship, this mountain or Jerusalem. It's a classic deflection.
It's brilliant. Let's debate theology so we don't have to talk about my life.
We do that all the time. We throw up an intellectual debate as a smokescreen when we feel vulnerable. But Jesus doesn't shut her down, does he?
No, he doesn't shame her for deflecting. He actually uses her question to deliver this monumental paradigm shift. He tells her that true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth.
Spirit and truth,
Uh,
which totally transcends geographical boundaries.
Exactly. He's redefining religion from a location-based practice into a universal spiritual reality.
Hmm.
You don't need a specific zip code to access God anymore.
And Spirit and Truth perfectly mirrors what just happened between them. She had to engage with the raw truth of her own life to access the spiritual reality.
That's a great point. True worship requires authentic self-awareness.
And then she brings up the Messiah. She says, the Messiah is coming and he'll explain everything, and Jesus drops the ultimate revelation.
I, the one speaking to you, I am he.
Boom!
It's incredible. He doesn't unveil his identity to the religious elite in Jerusalem. He reveals it to an outcast, marginalized woman by a well in enemy territory.
And that personal revelation is so powerful she can't contain it. This is where we see the ripple effect. She leaves her water jar behind, runs back to the town, the same town she was actively avoiding, and says, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did."
Her vulnerability becomes her testimony.
Meanwhile, the disciples come back, right?
Right.
And they're completely shocked to see him talking to her.
Right. They urge him to eat, and he starts teaching them about the fields being ripe for harvest.
The contrast there is amazing to me. The disciples went to the Samaritan town and just saw a place to buy bread. They were blinded by their prejudice. But the woman runs into the town and sees a community ready for transformation.
It's a profound lesson on evangelism. One transformative, vulnerable encounter leads to the transformation of an entire town, because the townspeople actually follow her back.
They urge Jesus to stay, and he does for 2 days.
Right. And many come to faith. They tell her, we don't just believe because of your words anymore. We've heard him for ourselves. Her storytelling was the catalyst that sparked their curiosity.
Which is beautiful. But I want to zero in on one specific detail you mentioned. She leaves the water jar behind.
Ah, yes.
I mean, the entire reason she came to the well in the heat of the day, this heavy burden she was hauling, is suddenly just forgotten. It is the ultimate narrative mic drop.
It really is.
When you find the living water, the heavy bucket you've been carrying around your whole life suddenly just doesn't matter anymore.
It's a stunning visual metaphor. The physical thirst is completely superseded by spiritual fulfillment.
So, synthesizing all of this, the takeaways are just massive. Breaking down societal barriers, the power of a personal encounter, choosing living water over worldly pursuits.
And the comforting truth that God sees our flaws, our deepest traumas, and still desires a relationship with us.
Exactly. Which brings us directly to you, the listener. We've talked a lot about honesty and vulnerability today, and it begs the question, how can you cultivate a practice of radical openness in your own life?
It's not easy. It's terrifying to drop the facade.
It is. But that vulnerability is where genuine relationships and stronger communities are built. Where are you using intellectual debates or busy work to keep people from seeing your actual struggles?
Right. Think about the areas in your life where you are desperately seeking fulfillment. What is the well you are constantly trudging toward, hoping it will finally satisfy you?
Yeah, what is your water jar?
Are you constantly returning to a metaphorical well that leaves you thirsty? And what social norms or personal fears are keeping you from leaving that water jar behind to embrace true renewal?
That is a deeply provocative thought to sit with. Yeah. And I encourage you to really ponder that today. Step outside your comfort zone just as Jesus did on that hot road to Samaria. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.